recognize the logic of the fact that S&P algorithm is very hard to beat. In a diversified portfolio of big companies, it's all but impossible for most people. But, I'm just more comfortable with the Berkshire.
Well, it's the family business.
Yeah.
But I've seen too many people as they get older, particularly being susceptible and just having to listen to the arguments of people coming along.
If you're going to protect your heirs from the stupidity of others, you may have some good system, but I'm not much interested in that subject.
Okay.
I do think Warren's right about one thing. I think we have a collection of businesses that on average has better investment values than, say, the S&P average. So I don't think you shareholders have a terrible problem.
And I would say we probably, I'm certain, we do have more of a shareholder orientation than the S&P 500 as a whole. I mean, this company has a culture where decisions are made as an owner, as a private owner would make them, and frankly, that's a luxury we have that many companies don't have. I mean, they are under pressures today sometimes to do things. One of the questions I asked the CEO of every public company that I meet is, what would you be doing differently if you owned it all yourself? And the answer, is usually this, that, and a couple of other things. If you would ask us, the answer is we're doing exactly what we would do if we owned them all the stock ourselves. And I think that's a small plus over time. Anything further, Charlie?
I think we have one other advantage. A lot of other people are trying to be brilliant, and we're just trying to stay rational. And it's a big advantage. Trying to be brilliant is dangerous, particularly when you're gambling. Well, I think it's true that we're peculiar in one way. If things go to hell in a handbasket and then get better later, we're likely to do better than most others. And we don't wish for that, and we don't want our country to have to suffer through it. And we fear what might happen if the country went through the ringer like that. But if that real adversity comes, we're likely to do better in the end. We're good at navigating through that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and occasionally there will be
a lot. In fact, we're quite good at it.
There'll be occasional hiccups in the American economy. It doesn't have much to do with who's president or anything like that. Those people may get blamed or given credit for different things, but it's just it is the nature of market systems to occasionally go haywire in one direction or other, and it's been ever thus. It'll be ever thus. It's not on a regular sine wave type picture or anything of the sort, but it's certain to happen from time to time, and we will probably have a fair amount of money and credit at that time, and we're not affected. When the rest of the world is fearful, we know America's going to come out fine, and we will not have any trouble psychologically acting at all. And then the question is, how much do we have in the way of resources? We'll also never put the company in any kind of risk just because we see a lot of opportunities. We'll grab all the ones we can that we can handle and not lose a day of sleep. Well, I've got a house for sale.
You don't have any personal possessions.
Yeah. No, anything you see with a figure attached like that.
You're a fatter version of Mahatma Gandhi.
Investment and speculation and the propensity of people to speculate and the dangers of it. And worded eloquently, there's always the possibility of I mean, there's always some speculation, obviously, and there's always some value investors and all of that sort of thing in the market. But when speculation gets rampant, and when you're getting what I guess Charlie would call social proof, people can get very excited about speculating in markets, and we will have it from time to time in this market. There's nothing more agonizing than to see your neighbor, who you think has an IQ about 30 points below you, getting richer than you are by buying stocks, and whether it's internet stocks or whatever, and people succumb to it, and they'll succumb in this economy just as elsewhere. There's also a point which gets to your question. I would say that early on in the development of markets, there's probably there's some tendency for them, I think, to be more speculative than markets have been around for a couple of hundred years, because it has markets have a casino characteristic that has a lot of appeal to people, particularly when they see, like I say, people getting rich around them. And those who haven't been through cycles before are probably a little more prone to speculate than people who have experienced the outcome of wild speculation. So basically in this country, Ben Graham was, in the book I read in 1949, was preaching investment, and that book continues to sell very well. But if the market gets hot, new issues are doing well, and people on leverage are doing well, a lot of people will be attracted to not only speculation, but what I would call gambling. And I'm afraid that will be true in the United States. And I think that China, being a newer market, essentially, in which there's widespread participation, is likely to have some pretty extreme experiences in that respect. We will have some in this country too. Charlie?
Well, I certainly agree with that. The Chinese will have more trouble. They're very bright people. They have a lot of action, and sure, they're going to be more speculative. And it's a dumb idea. And to the extent you're working on it, why, you're on the side of the angels, but lots of luck.
Well, it will offer the investor more opportunities, actually, if they can keep their wits about them. If you have wild speculation, I mean, Charlie just mentioned earlier, if we get into periods that are very tough, Berkshire certainly will do reasonably well, because we won't get fearful, and fear spreads like you cannot believe until you've seen a few examples of it. At the start of September 2008, you had 35 million people with their money in money market funds with $3.5 trillion in them, and none of them were afraid that dollar wasn't going to be a dollar when they went to cash in their money market fund. And 3 weeks later, they were all terrified. And the way the public can react is really extreme in markets, and that actually offers opportunities for investors. People like action, and they like to gamble, and if they think there's easy money to be made, a lot of them, you'll get a rush to it, and for a while it will be self-fulfilling and create new converts until the day of reckoning comes. So just keep preaching investing, and if the market swings around a lot, you'll keep adding a few people here and there to a group that recognizes that markets are there to be taken advantage of rather than to instruct you as to what is going on.
You go out over the extremely long term, I think that all the hydrocarbons will be used, including all the coal. So I think that in the end, these hydrocarbons are a huge resource for humanity, and I don't think we've got any good substitute. And I never minded saving them for the next generation. I don't like using them up very fast. So I'm off on a little road on my own on this one. And people think that all this hydrocarbons are going to be stranded and the whole world's going to change. I think we're going to use every drop of the hydrocarbons sooner or later. We'll use them as chemical feedstocks. I regard all these things as very hard to predict, and I'm not at all sure that. I would eventually expect natural gas to be pretty short in supply.
A change in storage would make a big difference. We will produce within a few years as much electricity in Iowa, or virtually as much electricity in Iowa from wind as our customers use, but the wind only blows about 35% of the time or something like that, and sometimes it blows too hard. But the storage, having it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is a real problem, even if we've got the capability of producing, like I say, a self-sufficient amount, essentially, in Iowa before very long. Coal, our shipments of coal are up fairly substantially this year on the BNSF, but they were very low last year, and as you said, stockpiles grew and have come down somewhat. They're still on the high side. But in my mind, Charlie's got a longer term outlook on this. In my mind, we're going to be shipping a whole lot less coal 10 or 20 years from now than we are now. On the other hand, I think there's some decent prospects in other long hauls. I mean, it's a pretty cheap way to move bulk commodities long distance. Rail is, and I think it's a good business, but the coal aspect of it's going to diminish.